For just one time I would take the Northwest Passage to find the hand of Franklin reaching for the Beaufort Sea, tracing one warm line through a land so wide and savage, and make a Northwest Passage to the sea.
There's nobody I've ever met who's had as much talent, just pure, raw talent as Stan. There's no one I know who could put words and music together as well as Stan. There's no one who I know who had as much feeling for what he was doing as an artist as well as Stan.
Westward from the Davis Strait, 'tis there 'twas said to lie, the sea route to the Orient for which so many died, seeking gold and glory, leaving weathered, broken bones, and a long forgotten lonely cairn of stones. For just one time I would take the Northwest Passage to find the hand of Franklin reaching for the Beaufort Sea, tracing one warm line through a land so wide and savage, and make a Northwest Passage to the sea.
Anyone who has never heard of him before, who has never been exposed to his music, once they hear it, just never forgets it. It just gets under their skin. They recognize it instantly as being something so uniquely Canadian, and it's talking about them, and it makes him very special to them.
3 centuries thereafter I take passage overland in the footsteps of brave Kelso, where his sea of flowers began, watching cities rise before me, then behind me sink again, this tardiest explorer, driving hard across the plain. For just one time I would take the Northwest Passage to find the hand of Franklin reaching for the Beaufort Sea, tracing one warm line through a land so wide and savage, and make a Northwest Passage to the sea.
A lot of what he did in his music, I think, was universal. I don't think he set out like a lot of, I think, commercial music does and says, here's a formula, let's follow it. He created his own formula. He was so successful at what he did because he didn't try to fit into anyone else's niche. He created his own.
How then am I so different from the first men through this way? Like them, I left a settled life, I threw it all away, to seek a Northwest Passage at the call of many men, and find there but the road back home again. For just one time I would take the Northwest Passage to find the hand of Franklin reaching for the Beaufort Sea, tracing one warm line through a land so wide and savage, and make a Northwest Passage to the sea. just lost sight of the Queensport light. Down the bay before us, and the wind is blowing some cold today with just a wee touch of snow. Along the shore from Lazy Head, hard to beam Half Island. Tonight we let the anchor go down in Fogarty's Cove. My sail's like a raven's wing, her hair's like her mother's, with hands that make quick work of a chore, and eyes like a couple of stove. Come supper time she'll walk the beach, wrapped in my old duffel, with her eyes upon the masthead reach, down in Fogarty's Cove. She will walk the sandy shore so plain, watch the combers rolling, till I come to Wildrose chance again, down in Fogarty's Cove. She'll walk the sandy shore so plain, watch the combers rolling, till I come to Wildrose chance again, down in Fogarty's Cove. Cries when I'm away to sea, nags me when I'm with her. She'd rather ride a government job or maybe go on the coast. But I love the way as I put about and nose into the channel. My Sally keeps a supper and a bed for me down in Fogarty's Cove. She will walk the sandy shore so plain, watch the combers rolling, till I come to Wildrose chance again, down in Fogarty's Cove. She'll walk the sandy shore so plain, watch the combers rolling, till I come to Wildrose chance again, down in Fogarty's Cove.
He means very much to me because he lived in Halfway Cove, not far from my home, and I really enjoyed his singing.
Well, everybody loved his music down around here.
Did they?
Yes, he's quite a fella.
He always used to come down here for his fish and have a beer with us and one thing or another. One's kind of a man. Bald-headed fella. He was kind of bald-headed, but he was a good bunch of brains.
I have a few of his albums at home.
What do you think?
I like him. It was traditional music, you know, suited the area a lot.
Did what?
Say it suited our area, his music did.
Stan Rogers walked in the door. You were talking to him for a few minutes, and you said, "Stan, how about coming to my house for supper tonight?" And if he said yes, I'll come to your house for supper. And about the same instant, Brian Mulrooney walked up to you, or walked up to Stan and says, "Stan, I want you to have supper with me tonight." I mean, Brian Mulrooney's the Prime Minister of Canada, and there's no doubt with the prestige and everything involved, he might go to Brian Mulrooney's house for supper. But I guarantee you he'd be at your house before the night was over. He'd come back. He was just that type of man. He had a love for the common, everyday person, and he felt more comfortable, I would say, at your house than he would at Brian Mulrooney's.
My mother was born and brought up about 16 miles down the road there in Canso. All my life, you know, I've been coming here, and when I wasn't here, I was hearing stories about it, you know. My grandmother still lives up there, and my Aunt June and Uncle Sam. And anything that happens here, you know, back there I am sitting back there in Ontario. But when I hear that, it affects me, you know. When I hear about some fellow who's lost a boat, or you know, somebody who drowned, or you know, some ship polluting the coast or something, I mean, that affects me very deeply, because I feel more at home here than I do in Ontario. You know, even though I was raised in Ontario and I'm born there, you know, my family ties, my cultural roots, everything is tied up with this Chedabucto shore.
How still lies the bay in the light western airs, which blow from the crimson horizon. Once more we tack home with a dry, empty hold, saving gas with the breezes so fair. She's a kindly Cape Islander road, but still sound, but so lost in the long liner's shadow. Make and break and make do, but the fish are so few that she won't be replaced. should she founder. Now it's so hard to not think of before the big war, when the cod went so cheap but so plenty. Foreign trawlers go by now with long-seeing eyes, taking all where we seldom take any. And the young folk don't stay with the fisherman's ways. Long ago they all moved to the cities, and the ones left behind, old and tired and blind, can't work for a pound, for a penny. In Make and Break Harbor the boats are so few, too many are pulled up and rotten. Most houses stand empty, old nets hung to dry are blown away, lost and forgotten. Now I can see the big draggers have stirred up the bay, leaving lobster traps smashed on the bottom. Can they think it don't pay to respect the old ways that Make and Break men have not forgotten? For we still keep our time to the turn of the tide, and this boat that I built with my father still lifts to the sky. The one-lunger and I still talk like old friends on the water. In Make and Break Harbor the boats are so few, too many are pulled up and rotten. Most houses stand empty, old nets hung to dry are blown away, lost and forgotten.
When he was in Little Dover for a concert, it was an older fisherman who came up to him and said, you know, and the man had tears in his eyes, and he said, I've been fishing, man and boy, for over 70 years, and you say things in your music that I can hardly even dare to think. And Stan was just like, he didn't know which way to look. It was just all he could do to keep the lump down in his throat. But he said to have reached someone on that level and then have that person, that crusty human being who would find it difficult to talk about those feelings, come up to him and share it man to man with him was really significant to him. That really meant a lot.
Stan Rogers wasn't a fisherman, but when he wrote a song about fishing or fishermen, then he was a fisherman because he put his whole heart and soul into it. And the same way if he wrote a song about a farmer, Stan Rogers probably never plowed a field. When he wrote a song about a farmer, then he was a farmer because he just put so much into it, and he made it a point to find out about it and know what the people were going through to how to live it.
The West, you know, the tours that we did out there were such intense experiences, and we saw so many things that were absolutely foreign to us, foreign to our experience, and met so many people that we just didn't know existed, that it can't help but affect the way you see things and the way you know, the way you feel about yourself and your relationship to other things. So Stan, you know, would tell the story on stage about how the Field Behind the Plow sort of had its genesis from driving around 4 o'clock in the morning across the prairies and seeing a farmer out there plowing his field with his headlights on and wondering what the hell was he doing out there at that hour of the day. Because only truckers and folk singers were out on the road at that point of the day. And I guess just reflecting on just how incredibly difficult it must be to have to work that kind of life and those kind of hours, and basically everything just depends on the weather. You have this enormous vista of cloud and sunset and rainstorms off 20 miles away, and you can see this whole thing moving, and it's like watching the hand of God at work, And
watch the field behind the plow turn to straight, dark roads. Feel the trickle in your clothes. Blow the dust cake from your nose. Hear the tractor's steady roar. Oh, you can't stop now. There's a quarter section more or less to go. And it figures that the rain keeps its own sweet time. You can watch it come for miles, but you guess you've got a while, so ease the throttle out there. Every rod's a game, and there's victory in every quarter mile. Poor old Kuzik down the road, the heartache, hail, and hoppers brought him down. He gave it up and went to town. And Emmett Pierce the other day took a heart attack and died at 42. You could see it coming on, 'cause he worked as hard as you. In an hour, maybe more, you'll be wet clear through. The air is cooler now. Pull your hat brim further down and watch the field behind the plow turn to straight, dark roads. Put another season's promise in the ground.
It's very hard for an artist to stand up on stage and say, please buy my album, because if I don't sell it, I can't make another one, and I have to pay my backer. And so he would stand up on stage and he'd say, if you want to buy my album, write to my mother and order it and enter into a lifetime correspondence with her. And that is practically what happened. People just kept writing. They wanted to know what the boys were doing, where they were going to be next, when Stan was going to release a new album. And it just went on and on and on. And then they would send pictures of their babies and birth announcements and things like that. As the years went by and we kept releasing albums, the fans felt that they were part of Stan's success.
From the very beginning, I knew that The Lockkeeper was about the dichotomy that Stan had in his own life. Being on the road, being home. The lure of the road, how wonderful it is out there. You know, the excitement of gigging, meeting different people, being adored on some levels, obviously having a great deal of respect and engendering quite a bit of emotion with his music. It was important to be out there. He wanted less and less to be out there for long periods of time. But Lockkeeper says it all. It's the the little rat on the inland waterway talking to the seagoing rat. He took that analogy from The Wind in the Willows.
You say, well met again, lockkeeper. We're laden even deeper than the time before. Oriental oils and tea brought down from Singapore. As we wait for my lock to cycle, I say my wife has just given me a son. A son, you cry, is that all that you've done? She wears bougainvillea blossoms. You pluck 'em from her hair and toss 'em in the tide. Sweep her in your arms and carry her inside. Her sighs catch on your shoulder. Her moonlit eyes grow bold and wiser through her tears. And I say, how could you stand to leave her for a year? Then come with me, you say, to where the Southern Cross rides high upon your shoulder. Come with me, you cry, each day you tend this lock, you're one day older, while your blood grows colder. But that anchor chain's a fetter, and with it you are tethered to the foam. And I wouldn't trade your life for 1 hour of home. Ah, your anchor chain's a fetter, and with it you are tethered to the foam. And I wouldn't trade your whole life for 1 hour of home. When I first came to this land, oh, a land alive with plunder, to take at the stretching of the hand. The beaver filled the streams, and I dreamed a dream so golden at the chance to sell the furs to ladies back in France.
What Roger's music does is it brings you into contact with the real people of the country through his voice and his insights. He caught their concerns and he caught their inner voice, I'd say, although what he turned it into was high art, was beautiful language. It's a marvelous sort of combination because really you've got, I think, wonderful words, wonderful images and diction and presence. And yet, it's the heightened voice of the people.
Canadians are like puppies. They like to be liked. Well, it's maybe time we started growing up and started showing our teeth. Anybody who's listened to a maritime weather report where they warn about freezing spray, these are the conditions when even the biggest, most modern trawler can become top-heavy with ice, turn turtle, and disappear in an instant. It's a terribly hard living.
Come on, you lads, draw near to me, that I be not forsaken. This day was lost to Jeannie's sea, and my living has been taken. I'll go to sea no more. Now it's well, you know what the fishing has been. It's been scarce and hard and cruel, but this day, by God, we sure caught. And we sang and we laughed like fools. I'll go to sea no more. I'll never know what it was we struck, but strike we did like thunder. John Price gave a cry and pitched overside. Now it's forever, he's gone under. I'll go to sea no more. Now a leak we've sprung, let there be no delay. If the Genie Sea were saving, John Price is drowned and slipped away. So I'll patch the hole while you're bailing. I'll go to sea no more. But no leak I found from bow to hold. No rocket was that got her, but what I found made me heart stop cold. For every seam poured water, I'll go to sea no more. My God, I cried as she went down. That boat was like no other. My father built her when I was 9 and named her for my mother. I'll go to sea no more.
Each one of those songs is a mini opera. There are characters, there's drama, there's passion, there's fear of death, there's exaltation and heroism. They're mini operas, those songs.
Those stories that he wrote of individuals persevering and triumphing were wonderful. And then there was the historical aspect, too. He researched, he cared about what had happened, he valued the historical, he felt it was worth preserving, worth singing about, which I think is important for any country's identity. I mean, I don't know if he would even have called himself a nationalist, but I saw that what he was doing was nationalist in a positive way, not in that jingoistic, you know, sort of reflex waving of the flag, but in a sense of really caring who we are, where we come from, and you know, what we're becoming.
After the first album, which is almost entirely about the sea and about this area, I thought I'd get out of it. You know, I'd started out as a contemporary songwriter, you know, but I found I couldn't leave it alone. You know, once you get hooked on a thing like this, you get the sea in front of you all the time. You can't leave it alone. Now, with Barrett's Privateers, for example, I wrote that after hanging out for a weekend with the Friends of Fiddler's Green, who did great shanties, you know. But they were all, you know, they all knew the songs, and they could sing the leads in them. Well, I wanted a shanty that I could sing the lead in, you know, instead of just hanging back and singing harmony on the chorus. I wanted to lead one, you know, so I had to write it.
On the 96th day we sailed again.
How I wish I was in Sherbrooke now.
When a bloody great Yankee hove in sight, with our cracked 4-pounders we made to fight.
God damn them all. I was told we'd cruise the seas for American gold. We'd fire no guns, shed no tears.
Now I'm a
broken man on a Halifax pier, the last of Barrett's Privateers.
The Yankee lay low down with gold.
How I wish I was in Sherbrooke now.
She was broad and fat and loose in stays, but to catch her took the Antelope 2 whole days.
God damn them all. I was told we'd cruise the seas for American gold. We'd fire no guns, shed no tears.
Now I'm a
broken man on a Halifax pier, the last of Barrett's Privateers.
And at length we stood 2 cables away.
How I wish I was in Sherbrooke now.
Our cracked 4-pounders made an awful din, but with one fat ball the Yanks drove us in.
God damn them all. I was told we'd cruise the seas for American gold. We'd fire no guns, shed no tears.
Now I'm a
broken man on a Halifax pier, the last of Barrett's Privateers.
The Antelope shook and pitched on her side.
How I wish I was in Sherbrooke now.
Barrett was smashed like a bowl of eggs, and the main truck carried off both my legs.
God damn them all. I was told we'd cruise the seas for American gold. We'd fire no guns, shed no tears.
Now I'm a
broken man on a Halifax pier, the last of Barrett's Privateers.
So here I lay in my 23rd year.
How I wish I was in Sherbrooke now.
It's been 6 years since we sailed away, and I just made Halifax yesterday.
God damn them all. I was told we'd cruise the seas for American gold. We'd fire no guns, shed no tears.
Now I'm a
broken man on a Halifax pier, the last of Barrett's Privateers.
Stan took different traditions. I mean, definitely the British tradition. And I think obviously the maritime influences are there as well. And I think he made them into his own. I think he created a style. Maybe style is a better word than tradition. And, but his style is now becoming a tradition. He had so many followers, so many admirers, that the young people are, I think, looking at his music as if it's always been there.
I've never been associated with an artist since or before then that started to garner the kind of following that he did just from word of mouth. It was comparable to, in the rock industry, Bruce Springsteen. That once people started talking about Bruce Springsteen, it wasn't just the Time cover and all those things. People just knew about it from word of mouth, that there's this great artist out there. And in the folk genre, and even outside of that, because I think it was expanding, that happened with Stan. People just talked about him. There was a buzz about him in the United States and Canada. Chicago, worst snowstorm they'd had in a decade. And there were people that drove 2 hours through this horrendous storm to see Stan Rogers. There were people that were skiing to the show, cross-country skiing. That's how badly people wanted to see Stan, and they were never disappointed.
The last year and a half of Stan's life, it was just like somebody speeded up the film. It was just like, we never could pause to catch our breath, and we were always on the plane somewhere or getting in the van somewhere, or it was getting to be that kind of life, and it was just speeding up so much. And Stan thrived on it. He was in many ways very brash, but in other ways very insecure. And when someone came up and said, "God, I loved what you did the other night, that was fantastic," he just got this big glow on his face.
He was out and he had crested that wave so that even though he died, it's not lost. The songs are there, they're being sung everywhere. It's with no major distribution, it's with no major airplay, and yet people in Scotland are singing Stan Rogers tunes. People in, Whitehorse are singing Stan. People in Texas, Kerrville, Texas know Stan Rogers tunes. I go into Northwest Passage and they'll join in.
Harbor, the boats are so few. many are pulled up and rotten. Most houses stand empty, old nets hung to dry are blown away, lost and forgotten. In make and break harbor, the boats are so few.
It's amazing to me because they, you know, you always think, oh, you know, Stan and these, you know, we can always hear ourselves. You know, I'll see him next week. I'm at the, I think I'm doing Canada Day with him or something like that. And you know, we were starting to sing, and Stan was trying to do something. And I thought, oh, I'm going to go out and check out the campfire. So I wandered around, and it was about 4 in the morning. I was sitting by this campfire, and Stan finally kind of made it over to our campfire. And I was sitting down. I have this clear image in my mind of I was sitting down, and Stan kind of had walked in, and somebody had asked him to sing 45 years from now. And so my image of him is by the campfire light in this incredible mesquite, and him standing there with his guitar singing, you know, 45 years, because I had the best seat in the house, right? So right there, 45 years from now. And I remember thinking, well, that's it. It's not going to get any better than that. Stan singing here, and you know, this is as good as it gets. I mean, he loved to sing. He, you know, 4 in the morning. He was probably there till the plane left, singing and carrying on. And that's my last crystalline image of Stan.
But I want to see your smiling face 45 years from now. I just want to hold you closer than I've ever held anyone before. You say you've been twice a wife and you're through with life. Oh, but honey, what the hell's it for? After 23 years, you'd think I could find a way to let you know somehow. But I want to see your smiling face 45 years from now. Yes, I want to see your smiling face 45 years from now.
I remember him telling me one evening out at June's. I think he had just finished singing the GNC, and he slapped me on the shoulder with that big paw of his, and he held it, and he said, I'm saving up for one. So I wasn't sure what he meant. I said, saving up for what? He said, I'm saving up for a 40-footer Cape Island type boat. He said, I'm going to have it built in the boat shop in Dover. So he was really, really gung-ho about this. He really had his mind set on it. He said he was saving his money at the time. And I dare say if he hadn't gotten killed, if he hadn't had the accident on the plane, I dare say he would have had a Cape Island boat. And I'd be willing to bet you my life it would have been named the Genie Sea.
Rise again, that her name not be lost to the knowledge of men. Those who loved her best and were with her till the end will make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again, rise again, rise again, that her name not be lost to the knowledge of men. Those who loved her best and were with her till the end will make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. Try it with me, won't you? Rise again, louder. Rise again, that her name not be lost to the knowledge of men. Those who loved her best and were with her till
I was on a ship that were carrying coal from Norfolk, Virginia to a place near Fall River, Massachusetts. And we got caught in a very bad storm. It was an old ship. And we didn't have very much warning. About 2 o'clock in the morning, we saw the ship was starting to get in trouble and go down by the head. And we called the Coast Guard, and they were on the way out as quick as they could. And the ship cracked up and rolled over at 4:15 a.m. The water was very cold. It was 39 degrees. I had heard enough stories about a vortex and a whirlpool sucking people down when the ship sunk, so I started trying to swim away as fast as I could. So it was probably the best part of an hour that I'd been doing this that I ran across a swamped lifeboat, and I managed to get into it. As the night wore on and the seas kept smashing down on top of me, and I finally got the feeling that I just couldn't make it anymore. And I was just about ready to give up when all of a sudden the words came into my mind. Rise again, no matter what you've lost, be it a home, a love, a friend, like the Mary Ellen Carter, rise again. And I just kept saying that over, and then the water cleared away, and I'd shout it out and sing it out. And another sea would come down on top of me. And I firmly believe that if it wasn't for that happening to me, I just was in a position where I couldn't have come through. And that song made the difference in me living through that night. There isn't any question in my mind whatsoever about it.
She went down last October in a pouring driving rain. The skipper he'd been drinking and the mate he felt no pain. Too close to 3 Mile Rock and she was dealt her mortal blow. And the Mary Ellen Carter settled low. There was just us 5 aboard her when she finally was awash. We'd worked like hell to save her, all heedless of the cost. And the groan she gave as she went down, it caused us to proclaim that the Mary Ellen Carter would rise again. Well, the owners wrote her off, not a nickel would they spend. She gave 20 years of service, boys that met her sorry end. But insurance paid the loss to us, so let her rest below. Then they laughed at us and said we had to go. We talked of her all winter, some days around the clock, for she's worth $250,000 afloat and at the dock. And with every jar that hit the bar, we swore we would remain and make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. Here we go. Rise again, rise again. Let her name not be lost to the knowledge of men. Those who loved her best and were with her till the end will make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. All spring now we've been with her on a barge went by a friend. 3 dives a day in a hard hat suit and twice I've had the bends. Thank God it's only 60 feet and the currents here are slow, for I'd never have the strength to go below. We patched her ends, stopped her bends, dog hatch and put all down. Put cables to her fore and aft and girded her around. Tomorrow noon we'll hit the air and then take up the strain and make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. Come on now! Rise again, rise again. Let her name not be lost to the knowledge of men. Those who loved her best and were with her till the end will make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. See, to crumble in the scale. She'd saved our lives so many times, living through the gales. And the laughing drunken rats who left her to a sorry grave, they won't be laughing in another day. And you to whom adversity has dealt the final blow, with smiling laughter flying through you everywhere you go, turn to and put out all your strength of arm and heart and brain, and like the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. Rise again, rise again. Though your heart it be broken and life about to end, no matter what you've lost, be in a home, a love, a friend, like the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. Rise again, rise again. Though your heart it be broken and life about to end, no matter what you've lost, be in a home, a love, a friend, like the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. Jim Morrison, Garnet Rogers.
Stan Rogers, thank you. Isn't that great?